Underground to Canada by Barbara Smucker. Chapter 15. In the spare but sturdy cabin of Jeb and Ella Brown, beside the wide, dark waters of the Ohio River, 4 people slept. But the dog, Pal, stirred restlessly. His black nose, pressed against the door, sniffed a people scent, which was growing stronger. He rose and paced nervously to the bed of his master, where he tugged at Jeb's sleeve. Jeb woke instantly. He'd trained himself for this, and he trained Pal. "Ella," he said softly, nudging his wife who slept beside him, "there's trouble comin'." Ella rose at once. She made no sound, nor did she light her candle. The room was dark, for the shades were still drawn, but she made her way quickly to the secret door and tiptoed to the mats where Julily and Liza slept. "Julily, Liza," she shook them gently. The girls sat up, alarmed and dizzy with trying to remember where they were. Ella calmed them with a steady hand on both of theirs. "Pal smells people comin'," she whispered. It could be slave hunters. Julily felt cold fear creeping over her, making her body stiff and almost immobile. "Lord help us again," she breathed. "They ain't going to catch us now when we've reached the Ohio River." Liza's whisper was fierce and determined. "We'll hide or run or even swim across the river, Julily." Liza's look was one of bitter hatred. "Listen to me." Ella Brown's voice remained calm and steady. She walked to the center of the dark room and jerked at something swaying against the wall. A rope ladder fell down, leading up to the window in the roof. "Roll up your mats and push them in the corner," she continued, giving her instructions in the same calm voice. "Take everything that belongs to you and climb up this ladder. Pull it up after you. Then close the window and lay flat on the roof. Nobody's been caught up there yet." She left the room. The girls did exactly as they were told. Liza climbed up first because she needed Julily behind to steady her. The roof was almost flat. They would have no trouble pressing against it, nor would they have any trouble hearing every sound inside the house. People were arriving on horseback, and Pal began barking wildly. A voice boomed out of the darkness. "Jeb Brown, you tie up that dog in there, or I'll blow his head off. This is Sheriff Starkey and a friend. We got a warrant, and we aim to come in." The girls shivered. They clung together and moved farther away from the window. Pal stopped barking and began to whine. The front door squeaked open. "You free N-word slave stealers in there, light some candles or a lantern. You want us to break our necks in this black hole?" It was the booming voice of Sheriff Starkey. Eventually the candles were lit. Liza and Julily couldn't see. The voice boomed on. "My friend here," he shouted, "has come all the way from Vicksburg, Mississippi, huntin' 4 N-words who ran away from the Riley plantation. They're worth $500 apiece. That's a goodly amount, and we're aimin' to catch them alive." "Sit down, Sheriff." The girls could hear Jeb's voice, low and unhurried. "Do you want Ella to fix you something hot to drink?" There was no answer. Just a shuffling and a scraping noise, as if furniture were being pushed and shoved around. "If they're in here, we're gonna find them." The sheriff was still shouting. "People say you got something to do with that underground railway, Jeb. You just drop those N-word slaves into the ground and nobody ever sees them again." There was still no answer from Jeb or Ella. Pal continued to whine softly. The scuffling noises continued. Julily wondered if they might be pulling up the floorboards to find the underground train. What could she and Liza do against 2 strong men if they climbed onto the roof? Liza seemed to read her mind. "If they climbs onto this roof, we'll jump," she said. "We'll run to the river and hunt for Jeb's boat." Julily agreed. At last it was quieter in the house below. The talk was low, and the girls couldn't hear the words. Now and then there were hammer sounds, as if one of the slave catchers might be trying to pound through a door. Julily hoped she wouldn't get dizzy or sick. She closed her eyes tightly, trying to shut out all the threats and poundings. At last the front door banged open, and the hard steps of 2 men could be heard clomping over the porch boards. "We didn't catch you this time, Jeb," the sheriff called from the back of the horse. "But we've got our eye on you. You hide any of those runaway N-words and we'll put you and Ella both in jail and fine you $1,000. There were no words from Jeb or Ella. The door closed, and the clatter of horses' hooves faded into the soft black night. Julily and Liza climbed slowly down the rope ladder and back into the dark secret room. Ella was already there, She drew the girls close to her. "That sheriff," she murmured, "is a mean man. He's gone now, but he'll be back." "Liza and I got to leave now," Julily said. She stood tall beside the other two. "We can hide better in the fields." Liza started to speak, then suddenly fell lifeless to the floor. She lay twisted and limp like a wilted plant whose stem had lost all means of sustenance. Julily bent down and shook her frantically. "You can't just fade away from me now." Julily became desperate. "I need you, Liza. I can carry you." Frail, bent Liza lifted her head. Her fiery black eyes seemed separate from the fragile body around them. "I'm comin', Julily," she said fiercely. "I'm just restin' and I need a drink of Ella's hot soup." Ella brought the warm broth immediately and held it to Liza's lips. It seemed to revive her, and she slowly stood on her feet. "You need a good rest, child." Ella's voice filled with concern. "But it won't do to keep you longer. That sheriff's coming back again tonight. I feel it in my bones." Julily shivered. Ella went on. "Jeb figures you can get across the Ohio River tonight. Listen now, he's calling to see if he gets an answer from the other side." The girls listened. The eerie tremolo call of the hoot owl drifted through the open window in the roof. There was a pause, and then it came again and again. They waited. 3 answering calls followed, faint but clear, sounding like a faraway echo. Ella was excited. "That hoot owl call is the river signal. It's lucky someone's there tonight on the other side." She moved quickly, gathering up the rope, then slipping through the secret door and untying Pal, who was whimpering in a dark corner. "You follow Pal and me to the river," Ella whispered to the girls. "Jeb's going to row you across." At the river's edge, Jeb was waiting in a small rowboat. It bobbed up and down on the ink-black water. Julily searched for the opposite shore, but there was no end to the blackness. How would Jeb know where to go? Where would he steer this small, bouncing skiff? Jeb held the boat steady against the shore as the girls climbed in. Julily steadied Liza and gave her the nearest seat. No one talked. There was just the sniffing sound of Pal and splash of moving water. Jeb slipped onto the seat where the oars were anchored. He leaned towards Julily and Liza and spoke softly. "Lean down. Hold on to the sides and don't make no sound." Ella shoved the boat into the water and waved goodbye. Ella and Jeb Brown are my friends forever, Julily thought. Jeb's oars dipped noiselessly into the black water. He gave mighty pulls with his strong arms. The boat must not flow with the current. It must cut across it. Julily and Liza strained to help him. 3 tremolo calls of the hoot owl trilled through the air. Jeb answered with a similar call, then turned the boat slightly upstream, responding to the river signal. For Julily and Liza, the river held mystery and terror. They couldn't swim. There had never been time or a place to learn. They had never floated over a river in a boat before. Julily felt the lapping water hit her hand. Sprays of water spun across her face. Finally, the dim black outline of a shore appeared. A silent figure waved from the bank. Jeb threw him a rope, and the boat was pulled silently ashore. The man tugging the rope was white. The girls noticed this at once. There was no greeting between the 2 men, just nods of recognition. But Jeb did grasp Julily's hand, and then Liza's. He didn't need to speak. The grasp was strong with warmth and courage. "These helpin' hands is the rails and the engines of the Underground Railroad," Julily thought to herself. "All the way from Mississippi to Canada, they is pullin' and workin' and makin' a helpin' chain. There is some good people across the land." The girls were led quickly to a horse-drawn cart. A large drawer pulled out beneath it, and they were tucked inside. The drawer closed. There wasn't room to move around, but there were warm, fresh-smelling blankets to lie upon. "Well, now I feels like I is really on a railway underground," Liza said quietly. There wasn't a sliver of light in any direction. "We aren't supposed to see," Julily chuckled. "Don't you remember, Liza? We is just 2 packages of dry goods." They needed to be light-hearted for a moment, to relax all the tight muscles that had held them frozen to Jeb and Ella Brown's roof, and to allow Liza to recover from her sudden faintness. The snug little drawer began jostling back and forth with the trotting of a horse, and Julily wanted to sing. Instead, she thought the song inside her head, the way she had done long ago in the cabin at Massa Henson's farm. "When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. A low voice spoke softly through the boards above them. If all goes well, we'll reach the home of Levi Coffin in Cincinnati by morning. If we're stopped, don't make a sound.